Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Hey Sunshine. And I'm so excited today because we have Cat Santos coming for a Human Design 2.0 episode. So Cat, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello. So a little bit of a backstory. You were on my first ever podcast recording of Hey Sunshine. And I remember I was so nervous. Like you were in the other room of my house, which you are again today, and just like sweating before. But we just had so much fun talking about all things human design and just literally unpacking like the brilliant mind that is your mind. So for anyone who's listening, I highly recommend starting on, I think it's episode number 3, so Human Design with Cat Santos. So we literally dive into all things human design. So what is it, where it came from? What else did we do in the first one, Cat?
I think we spoke about the energy types as well. I think we touched on those.
Yeah. So today we're going to dive into the profiles. So you would sort of know, like when people are like, I'm a projector 3-5, the 3-5 element is like the profiles. Anyway, Kat's going to do a much better job of explaining that. But first off, Kat, I suppose I wanted to just start with the question. We usually talk about magic, but you've already spoken us beautifully about your question about magic in the first episode we did. So I want to talk about when you were learning human design and sort of like really starting to like get into alignment, what was the first shift that you made?
Well, for me, I'm a generator. And so the moment that I saw that I needed to only be saying yes to that which lit me up and no to anything that didn't, that was really hard for me because I would say at the time I was a full-blown people pleaser. And I didn't know how to differentiate between saying yes because I genuinely wanted to and saying yes because I thought it would just make things easier. Other people would like me because I said yes and all of that stuff. So the moment I went, okay, first of all, let's get clear on what's actually not lighting me up. I realized that on like a spectrum, on my daily, schedule, I would say probably like 95% of the things that I was doing didn't light me up. And so then I was like, okay, I really need to kind of bring that back into balance to begin with, because it's impossible for us to just go, I'm going to just say no to all of it and, and say yes to everything. And it's just not, it's not feasible initially. So for me, it was about going, okay, how can I bring that back to 80% the things that don't light me up and 20% that does. And eventually I've gotten it to a place where it's, I'm saying, yes to that which lights me up and no to that which doesn't. And that was the biggest shift for me, because it literally, you can't even conceive. You think it's such a little choice, but it was just absolutely changed my life.
It's such a massive one. And I know a lot of people who are listening probably resonate with just feeling burnt out, feeling like they're so stretched, doing and saying yes to everything. Like, what would be like a tip for someone who's just like, I know that I'm overcommitting and saying yes to everything? Like, what would be like the one little thing that will help them shift that?
Oh, goodness. Well, first of all, it's about knowing that the only person at the end of the day that's going to be stuck with you for the rest of your life is yourself. So it's like about being like, okay, how do I put that person first, that person first, and not in a, I think the word selfish gets a bad rap, but in a way that it's like, you do kind of need to be selfish when it comes to this life with what is truly making me joyful and happy. Because if you try and do it from the other way around of going, okay, how can I make everyone else around me happier so that I can feel good? That's not sustainable. And you're never actually going to achieve joy. So it was more about, how can I be okay with putting myself first?
Yeah.
That's my tip, because you're never actually going to get to doing anything about it if you don't have that recognition or love for yourself first. So how do you find that? How do you go, I'm going to be a cheerleader for me. I'm going to get back on my train and stop being on everyone else's train, stuff like that. That's my first tip.
So good. And it's such a massive thing. And I call myself like a recovering people pleaser. Like, I think when we do have that people pleaser background, like there's always going to be stuff that comes up that triggers us, or it's going to be old people pleasing ways, but just kind of like, know you're on a journey of putting yourself first. And like, you don't have to have all the answers or all the steps worked out just now. That's awesome. Thanks, Kat. So shall we dive into the profiles?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So let's kind of talk about a bit of housekeeping about how people can kind of like understand how we're going to talk about it. And maybe just like some framework for people listening.
Definitely. Okay. So as we know in human design, there's lots of categories. So it's not just one big old, this is what you are, kind of like, you're a Cancer or you're a Capricorn. It's so much deeper than that. So the multitude of what you are is actually a compounding of many different categories. So profile is one of those categories, and it is probably the category that is most closely linked to something that can be understood as an archetype or a character or a role that we play. It's probably the thing closest to personality or humanness than anything else, because as we know in human design, we're talking about energy, and energy is really hard to personify. You know what I mean? Whereas profile is probably the most personifiable. Is that the word?
We're gonna run with it.
We're gonna go with it. So in human design, there are 12 profiles. The 12 profiles are made up of 2 numbers, and those 2 numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I'm not going to go into each profile like one of the 12. What I will do today is break down what each of those lines represent and how they then, when we bring them together, create this gorgeous like dance and harmony within us and how we express. So the 2 numbers for me, I like to call it how you know and how you show.
How you know and show. That's cool.
How you know and show. So that when I say how you know, it's almost like, how do you come to your knowing? What is it for you that makes you go, I've achieved clarity. This is how I feel stability. This is how I come to my genius. This is how I figure things out. What is that for you? And then how do you show is, how do you show up in the world around you? Are you someone that's built to be within your network and community? Or are you more of a, I'm going to meet strangers and champion strangers and my friends alike? Or are you someone who's a role model and you kind of sit back and kind of people just come to you? Like there's so many ways, and all of that can create lots of, characters and little roles that we wear. But so, one thing, go on.
I was going to say is how you know is the first line, and then how you show is the second line. Is that right?
Yes and no. So the first line would be your personality, which is, this is how I see myself. And then your design would be how people are seeing me. Okay. So how that also comes up is like, how you know, this is how I know, this is how I know I'm like, this is how I operate. And then how you show, this is what other people also pick up on me. And they'll be like, you're someone who's this for me. But it's almost like there's also double meaning. It gets real deep.
It's all right.
It gets real deep. But the how you know and how you show, I like to put the how you know, less worry about, because then we start talking about transpersonal and personal lines, which I think in this podcast we'd get way too deep. But with the how you know and how you show specifically, I would say the numbers 1, 2, and 3 are how you know. The numbers 4, 5, and 6 are how you show.
Cool. Okay.
So there's only one profile that actually is in both the showing, and that's the 4-6 line. So that's someone who has 2 showing up, which is, when I get into it, the networking and also a role model. So for them, like life is very like, anyway, I'll get into it's extroverted, definitely.
So just a question before we dive in, are there any numbers that do not go together, or like could a 2 never go with a 1 or something? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like there's specific numbers, but you wouldn't okay. The reason why I'm saying that's a good question is because, for example, the line 1, so let's say you're the 1, 3, you've got 2 numbers that are, no, actually a better example is a 2, 4, because a 2, 4, the 2 line is, why I'm saying they don't go together is more that they almost clash. They're a complete contrast. So people that are 2, 4s are people that would feel like the 2 line is always saying, I want to hermit, I want to be an introvert, I want to go into my genius and get away from people to find my genius. But then their 4 line is like, I want to be with my friends, I want to go out, I want to socialize, I want to be that social butterfly. So they're always feeling conflicted because those 2 numbers technically are contrasting. So they shouldn't go together, but they do. So that's more of like how they don't go together. But yes, there are numbers like you can't be a 3, 4.
Okay.
You can't be a 4. No, you can't be a 6, 4. You can't be a 1, 5, but you can be a 5, 1. It gets real confusing.
Oh my God, I love it. Well, why don't let's go through 1 to 6, the lines. Is that right?
Yes. The lines.
And then people can kind of like put their lines together to make their profile.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, okay,
And then more, because then there's always, it's like what I said in that first podcast, 1 + 1 = 3 with human design. So it's like today people will be able to take away the 1 + 1, and then it's like they can then go and do, self-diving, especially if they're a one line, of like figuring out, like what is it? Okay, what's that third thing that makes me really different? Like, for example, you have the 2-5 profile, and then you have the 5-2, and they show up differently. So even though they're the same numbers, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So we'll dive in today, and then people just take their numbers and then go and do some more research as well.
Yeah.
Or book a session with you. Either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the one thing that I just want to be really clear when it comes to knowing our profile, or just human design in general, I feel like I always have to lay this as a foundation before I go into sharing the information. It's twofold, two things. The first thing is, remember that we're speaking about energy, and energy's only goal is to be efficient and come to completion so that it can then keep growing and expanding like the Big Bang, like I said in our first podcast. So the way that I'm going to explain the 6 lines is almost like I want you to think of a circle coming into full completion, and then how that continues, because that will also help you understand how each line flows into the next, and how, like, you might be a 5-2, but then you hear what someone who's a 5-1 and go, oh, but I resonate with the 1 line. Well, yeah, because you innately have got into your 2 line. You embody the 2 line that can only exist because the 1 line exists. So you're always going to recognize and go, oh, I can identify with that. But it's about going, what's going to make my car go faster? What's going to make my vehicle be more efficient? So that's the first thing I want to remind everyone of. And the second thing that I want to remind everyone of, I need to slow down. I remember listening to myself back, and I speak so fast. The second thing is just try not to get too attached to the language. Yeah. So if I use, for example, if you're a line, 4, and I call you the opportunist, you're not an opportunist in life, but it's just the word that best encapsulates what that energy is trying to exemplify.
Yeah. It's an archetype, as you said. It's like warrior archetype. It's not that we're a warrior, it's we portray those properties,
That's exactly it. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to start with the line 1, and then I'm going to do my best to flow and show how they all like bleed into one another.
I'm going to ask questions along the way.
Please do. Yeah. And just like be like, Cat, shut up. Because you know me, I'll just
go for hours. That's all good.
Okay. So we have our line 1, which is our investigator. So imagining another way that people also explain the profile, if not in a circle or a cycle, they explain it as a house. So I'm going to think of the line 1 represents the foundation of the house. It's like, what are we building this house even on? So people that have a line 1, it's called the investigator line, which is all about introspection, being a chameleon, and empathy. So people that have a line 1, they are people that are driven to getting to the bottom of things. They need a secure, solid foundation to come to their knowing. So I'm a 5-1. So I have a 1 line within me, and how that shows up is that I need to be aware of everything. I will Google, I will study, I will read all the books, I will get to the bottom of everything so that I can have all the facts. If I don't have all the facts, I don't feel stable and secure in life. So a way for me, like, for example, let's say that I was always conditioned to think that I wasn't smart enough to study, and I kind of shied away from that. I would be shying away from my genius, which is, getting to the bottom of things. Or if I had a chip on my shoulder about always asking questions. Let's say someone was like, oh, Kat, you're a busybody, you're always wanting to know. And then I had a complex about that. Again, I would be denying what is innately who I am and how I am designed to navigate this earth plane.
Do you think that's a lot of people, though, like their gifts in their lines actually start off as a shadow that they need to then bring to the light?
I mean, definitely. I think when we're first born, we come in exactly as who we are, and then what's around us.
Conditioning.
Exactly. Yeah. Whether it's society, the country we're born in, the family we're born into, all of it, like we're impacted by all of it. So that's why, again, it's like, if I'm a 5-1, I'm still going to be so different from someone else who's a 5-1 based on what their conditioning was, but also what energy type they are and what their authority is and what their, incarnation cross is and all that stuff. Like it's really easy for us to be like, oh, I'm the same as you, because we love doing that as humans, when really it's like, no, this is just showing us how human design is the science of differentiation, how we're actually completely unique and rare. So back to the 1 line, the 1 line is always saying, I'm studying, I'm doing my research, like, don't bother me, I need to get to the bottom of this, always asking questions. They study human behavior a lot as well. They love to watch how people act, see which behavior works and doesn't work, and then build their foundation on that. So ultimately, it's always about achieving this goal of, I want to feel stable and secure, because without it, we can't build anything.
Yeah.
Right. So energy is basically saying, I can't be more of what I want to be if I don't have anything. I can't jump unless I have a floor underneath me. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm just falling. Do you know what I mean?
I can so see you're a one line.
Can you? Is my one line showing? It's definitely showing.
I love when I first met you. You have this news app where it's like you get to read both sides of the story. So the left and the right side. And I'm like, that is so like a one line, because like you want all of the information before you can make a decision. You're a cracker. Typical one line.
Typical one line. So yeah, and there's also like this innate need for a secure physical foundation. So like one lines are always wanting to feel really safe in their home, in life, and obviously other things in your chart can impact that. Let's say you have the gate of extremes, gate 15, you might be someone who's, you want that foundation, but then all of a sudden there's this energetic part of you that's going, I'm going to go to Timbuktu. I don't know why, because you want to, have that extreme or stuff like that. But that's the one line. Do you have any questions around that before I go on?
No, that sounds awesome.
Clear? Okay, beautiful. And I just want to actually add these in. These are Ra Uruhu's little quotes that he has for each line. And so for line 1, the quote is, the very nature of a hexagram, the very construct itself cannot survive without a solid foundation. Right. And so the hexagram is basically our body, it's our body graph. And so it's like your physical, if we were to see ourselves as just pure energy, we could not exist without the foundation of that. So so that's the line 1. I'm going to go into line 2.
I love it.
Line 2 is the hermit. So other words that go with the hermit is the natural, the democrat, and also a theme of projection. Now that's different to the projector. See how language can get—
I know, they can.
It gets real confusing. So the line 2 in the house, that house analogy I was giving, the line 2 would be the person would be going now into the living room on the bottom floor, right? And the line 2 would be the person standing at the window with the windows wide open, kind of just looking out at life, thinking about it. And then people walking past look inside the house and go, look at that person thinking. I wonder what they're thinking about. And then they might go and knock on the door and go, hey, what are you thinking about? So the line 2 are people that have an innate genius, an inner knowing that cannot be explained or justified or shown through just pure study. It's like, I just know because I know. And the way that their knowing often comes out, and this is where the theme of projection comes in, is that people will call them out for their genius, particularly when they're following their strategy and their authority, which means that they're in alignment. Right? Because when we're in alignment, we're in our flow, and we call and we attract and magnetize the correct opportunities. And so for people that are aligned too, there is this inner need to retreat and kind of like have a cave or a space or whatever it looks like for them, where they kind of close themselves to the world and then come back to what is true for me. What is my take on this life? What is my natural talent? What is this thing that I just know that I can't explain where it originates from? Cool. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And I know before when we chatted about them, you've given us the Harry Potter references for each one. Do you remember what 2 was?
What was the 2? Oh, I'm going to have to think now. We'll have to write it in like the thing. I can't remember what the 2 was. The retreater. I can't remember now.
That's all right. We'll get to it.
We'll get to it.
Who knows?
Yeah.
The few ones that we remember.
What was the 2? Was it Ron? I don't think it was Ron. Maybe it was Ron. Because Ron doesn't really share, like he just has like this thing, like he's not like Hermione, who's the one line. He's not like Harry, who's the one who's just going to throw himself and try it. If anything, Ron is actually a bit more quiet and reserved, and just has those moments where he just comes out with that genius, and Hermione's like, oh my God, how the hell did you know that? Like, for example, actually it is like Ron is a perfect example, because think about in, now we're talking about Harry Potter, but in like, in Philosopher's Stone, he's the one who knew how to get through the chess, because that was his natural talent.
Yeah.
He was just called to it. He didn't share with the world that he played chess. It was just his thing that he loved to do at home. And then all of a sudden he saved the day using his 2 line. So I think Ron's actually a beautiful example of how a 2 can work. It's not Hermione with the 1 and Harry with the 3. It's that inner genius that kind of just pops up.
And I feel like everyone hearing number 1 line and knowing Hermione, you're like, okay, that makes sense. Yes. It just like helps us grasp it even more.
It does. It really does. Yeah. When we make him a character, a person. Yeah. And again, notice with Ron, again, perfect example as a 2 line, because Ron doesn't actually believe that he's
smart
or talented or that he has anything to offer. And it takes Harry or Hermione or someone to be like, no, Ron, like, come on, like, you look how amazing you are, for then him to recognize his natural talent. And that's often what happens with 2 lines, because the reason why I think that they're most impacted is because of the way that our society is structured and the systems that are currently in place, which is you go to school, you go to uni, you get a degree. One lines would maybe thrive, but maybe 3 lines would thrive, but they'd make a lot of mistakes in the process and maybe change their degree here and there. But a 2 line might never want to do that, you know? And so, yeah, they work best when there's no interference as well. So it's like, my sister, for example, has a 2 line, and I'm always saying to her, like, you need to carve out space for yourself to come to your genius, which she's like, well, Kat, I've got 2 kids. Like, how do I do that? And it is. So I recognize, like, even in sharing this information, anyone that is a 2 line, I get it. If you're like, yeah, but Jesus Christ, Kat, I've got 5 kids at home. How do I make that time for myself? It's like, well, isn't that the medicine then?
Well, it could just be as simple as a walk, you know, or like having a tea to yourself and journaling, or
that's it. Ritual. Yeah, it's like, what is that tiny little thing, even if it's like, I'm going to wake up before my kids wake up and you know, just get out of the house, read, or sit in my backyard, or whatever it is, go for a run and come to your inner knowing. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. So any questions around the 2 line?
No, you're nailing it.
Oh, amazing. Okay, I'm going to give the Ra's quote, which is, just sit by the river, sooner or later something will come by. This is readiness for the unknowable, whatever it may be.
So it's like more about surrendering to your genius and forcing your genius.
Yeah, there's something mystical about the 2 line. I personally think, because the 1 line is this like really solid study nature. The 3 line, which we're going to get into, is about getting your hands dirty. So for me, the 2 line is probably it's probably the most like intuitive. So there is something mystical.
Yeah, deeply sort of like that inner knowing. Yeah.
Again, that's how they come to their knowing. Exactly. So yeah, again, the best way for a 2 line to know what is the correct call. So in other words, that person that knocks on the window and goes, hey, what's your genius? How do you know to share your genius so that that it's actually done to energetic efficiency, meaning that person's going to hear what you have to say and do something about it in the best way possible, is to make sure you're following your strategy and your authority.
Awesome.
You know, always coming back to that. That is like the rule of thumb with human design: strategy and authority.
I was just laughing at like a projector with a 2 line, like they'll have 2 invitations.
Yeah, like in the dictionary, it actually talks in the dictionary, like my human design Bible, it says that. Yeah, they use examples of that. Exactly. So do you see how then we're building our soul lessons when we start going, oh, not just what are all the ingredients in my cake, but how do they all come together? What's the flavor that I am? And not just looking at them separately. It's like, oh, I'm a projector, but I'm also a 2. So I'm not like my other friend who's a projector. So I can't compare myself to them, which then again is medicine around comparison. You know, there's just so much medicine, I find. In human design. All right, I'm going to go on to the 3 line. We ready?
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. And then also 3 line, which then goes into the 6 line, which is also the Weasleys.
That's it.
And yeah. So the 3rd line is called the Martyr. And other words around the 3rd line is trial and error, mutation, and adaptation. So basically, for me, trial and error. For anyone that has a 3 line, you're someone who made a soul contract that said, I want my vehicle to literally bump into everything, make mistakes, screw up, figure it out, break bonds, make bonds, break bonds again, make them. There's this constant like breaking, creating, breaking and making, like mutating, adapting, getting my hands dirty. Oh, how did it go? Nah, awesome, keep going. How did it go? Yeah, great, keep going. There's no such thing as failure in a 3 line. However, if they're conditioned in a bad way, they're always going to think they're failing.
So I wanted to talk to that point because I'm a 3 line. And so all throughout I call it like my tapestry of my career, because it's so much, but I like I started off studying graphic design, and then I was interior designer. Then I had a prepared meals business. Then I did corporate catering. And then I pretty much like worked for, do you know what I mean? Like all of these things. And I had a lot of shame around chopping and changing and chopping and changing, because I thought, what are people going to think of me? They're thinking I'm non-committal. They're thinking that, you know, I can't make my mind up. And the medicine, as you said, when I learned I was a 3 profile, and being like, oh my God, like this is meant to be me. I'm meant to like get my hands dirty and try all these things. It's not failure if I give something up or think it's not in alignment. It's actually a redirection to the you know, quote unquote right path, or the right next move for me. So yeah, I just remember like feeling like, oh my God, like finally I can embrace this, you know, changing sort of thing, and know it's my gift.
Yeah. And know, oh, I can have permission to be myself. And what a relief, because now that like pressure on your chest and your mind lifts, and then your life is radically different simply for shifting your perspective on yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like that's life-changing shit right there. Totally. Just going, oh, I'm allowed to be like that.
Yeah. Well, you can see how conditioning plays into it, because if I had sort of been like, oh, well, I'm not going to change my business, or I'm not going to stop this business because what is my mum going to think, or what is my family going to think, or society, or whatever, and then I would just be stuck in something that's totally not in alignment. Whereas if I just listen to, you know, and obviously take everything with a grain of salt, but like it's okay to make another decision, or it's okay to change your career, then it's like, awesome, in alignment. Then I'm on to the next thing and feeling like lit up, you know?
Exactly that. And it's the thing with 3 lines, there's no such thing as failure. It's only discovery. That's what you're actually doing. You're constantly discovering what is it that because you're coming to your knowing. So the way, for example, for you specifically, Shani, as a 3 line, how do I come to my knowing? I've got to do it. I can't just study it, and I can't just go into my room and think about it. You might do all those things, and you're allowed to do all those things. You can't, like, that's the part where that dogma comes with human design that I can't stand. It's like, oh no, I can't study because I'm not a 1 line. No, freaking go and study if you want to study, Jesus. But what's really going to help you is when you actually just freaking get your hands dirty and try it. Just put it out there and let go of the attachment of how it turns out, because the whole point was just in the doing of it, not the result. Yeah.
My favorite quote, and this was like pretty much I ingrained in my brain like throughout probably like my 20s, was it's not rejection, it's redirection. Like it's like any failed thing is like, it's just going to be like the next thing. It's all good. Like it's part of the journey.
That's like a beautiful motto for all 3 lines out there. It's not rejection, it's redirection.
Yeah.
Like, because also for a 3 line, for example, like I mean this in like the most clear way possible, but we may think, oh, that failed, so it mustn't have been meant for me. I'm like, well, actually things that go well for you might also not be meant for you. Like it's literally like, you've got to let go to attachment to any of it. Don't let your ego get trapped on any outcome. For you, life is about discovery. It's about just making choices of throwing yourself in there. Doesn't matter how it ends up. Just let yourself get dirty.
So good. Yeah. Permission slip granted.
Permission slip granted. So the quote for this one is, whatever comes their way, there is always a message with important information. They are the weavers of the Maya. Because without the Maya, I think the Maya is like the matrix, because, you know, like Gaia, I feel like that's a good question. I haven't really actually.
That's all right.
What the definition of Maya is. But for me, the way I understand that is like the cosmos, the universe, the way that this is all intrinsically the tapestry of life. Yeah. You weave it, because with the 3 line, I didn't explain this, but in the house, the 3 line represents the stairs that go up into the 2nd level. So it's almost like you're the bridge. Those with the 3 line teach us of, okay, how do we get to that next level? Because, okay, now we've got the foundation. We figured out what's our genius, but now we've got to do something about it. So it's like you volunteered being like, I volunteer as tribute. Do you know what I mean? Like you've literally gone, I volunteer as tribute for the Hunger Games. I'm going in. I'm taking the risk for all of us so that I can teach you through my example of my existence, of my life as Shani Timms. You will learn through my example that you can now make mistakes as well. And you're now going to make different choices based on my trial and error process.
I honestly think that's why it's like heaps of shit fuck up for me, because I'm like, because I meant to actually share this experience. Like a lot of stuff with health, my journey through health, it's like tried this, tried that, done that, implemented that. And then I share about it, but then people, they're like, oh, I really resonate with that. I'm going to try that. So it's like, I think I'm the guinea pig. And then it's like, then I can teach my scientific findings.
That's exactly right. And then just with you specifically, that combination of the fifth line that comes in, which is all about saving other people and other people recognizing you as someone that can save them. Do you see how then you start building, oh, there's my knowing and my showing.
Yeah.
Here's how I show up to the world. Yeah. Like, and then when I go into the fifth line, that'll make more sense. But yes, you already kind of know, but yeah.
Good.
So that's the third line. Any questions?
No, keep rolling, love.
Amazing. On fire. Okay. So now we get to the second level of the house. And we come to our line 4, which is basically the second level, right? The foundation. It's now the foundation of transpersonal. I'm not going to get too deep in personal and transpersonal because I think that's just confuse everybody. But yeah, but that's what we kind of shift into. It's now another way of interacting with the world. There's our personal journeys, and now there's our transpersonal karma of how we then shift others. Now, the fourth line is all about, think of it this way. I've built my foundation. I've got my genius. I've tried it. So what's the next thing you want to do? I'm going to share it with my people. I want to share it with others. I want to see if this can help my immediate community, my little tribe, my friends, my network. Line 4 is all about, it's called the opportunist. And the words are externalization and friendliness. Friendliness. Wow, that one got me in my mouth. Friendliness. So people with the fourth line are just naturally social. They want to be around their community of people. Now, not to be confused with the fifth line, which is strangers and like people online or any of that. No, fourth lines, it's like, who is my immediate circle? What is the network around me? What is the community that I need to, and in saying that, people with the fourth line, the health of their, or the quality, I should say, the quality of their life will always be directly proportionate to the quality of the friendship groups around them. It is cool. So important for people with the fourth line to be very aware of who is my immediate circle. Again, that's an example of how that can be medicine.
And are they quite like making friends is easy to them? Is that what it is? Yeah.
So easy. There's like this natural sisterhood, brotherhood within them where people are just drawn to them. They will always have their community of people around them. And that's how they magnetize their opportunities. So let's say they're a generator and they're a 2-4. And they would say to me, Kat, how would I know how would I magnetize opportunity? How can I keep my eye open for it? My advice then would be, well, first of all, you're a generator, so you're going to be lit up by it. Let's say they're sacral authority. You're going to be lit up by it. Your gut's going to be like, boom, champagne. And it's probably going to come through one of your people. The right call will come from one of your friends being like, hey, have you ever thought about this? Or I've got a mate who da-da-da-da. It'll be from your community and your circle, and not from a random on Instagram being like, hey, but like, again, just because I am speaking to you, Shani, like think about how many connections you've made randomly just through that fifth line of yours that bridges out to strangers.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking when you said that before, I was like, because I love meeting strangers. Like I love meeting people and chatting to them and like hearing their stories. So yeah, I totally resonate with that.
Yeah. So with fourth line, again, it's not that you can't go out and make friends with strangers. You definitely will. The thing is though, you're naturally going to make those strangers part of your community and your network, and they'll become really close, and then you'll start creating more opportunity with them. Or you will meet that stranger through someone in your friendship group. Like it's always going to happen in that way more often than not.
We were talking about this in our business group the other day, and it's like business owners or entrepreneurs with the 4 line. It's like your community, your network is everything. Like they're going to be your like biggest cheerleaders. They're going to be talking about your business. They're going to be sharing it like that. Like for you, it's probably less important. Sorry, for a 4 line, less important to be showing up on socials, doing all the things, and more important with like ground level community building, friendship building, tight networks.
100%. Yes. It's really how much energy am I putting into my people? Yeah. And so again, so now do you see, just again, when we bring the 2 numbers together, how a 2-4 is in this constant like push and pull of like, it is like two versions of themselves going, I want to retreat, I want to engage, I want to retreat, I want to engage. And then they can also often start then second guessing themselves and going, what's wrong with me? Am I introverted? Am I extroverted? Am I social? Am I not social? Actually, you're both.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're multifaceted. And the beauty for those people, for 2/4s, is finding the right balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And knowing, oh my God, I need to tap out. I've been with my friends too much, or whoa, I've been isolating too much.
Yeah, it's a dance between the two.
That's it. A dance between the two, finding the harmony between the two. And so the quote for this one from Rauhu is, the fourth line is about the human resources of the material plane. People are the biggest decisions and investments that they can make in their life. The people you are surrounding yourself by. Like, it's, yeah.
So is this the Weasley twins?
No, Weasley's are the 6-3.
Okay,
which is like
the 4?
The 4, I said was the 4-1 I said was Luna.
Luna.
Lovegood.
Oh, yeah.
Luna, because you think about her life changed when she started really thinking about who she's surrounding herself by.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, Luna would have had a totally different life had she not been surrounded by Harry and all their peeps. You know what I mean? And then the one line is that she was someone that was really like getting to the genius, always reading the books and have you heard of this? And but also I called her the 4-1 because the 4-1s are kind of separate to everyone. They like have their own little trajectory where they're not transpersonal and they're also not personal. They have their own, like, it's like a bonus life.
Yeah.
And so I feel like Luna had this beautiful bonus life. But the Harry Potter thing, I also don't want to take credit for that. That's definitely like inspiration from the My Human Design.
Yeah, they actually did an epic one. Did you see the one today? They did all the Disney characters.
Yes.
Profiles. What were you?
I'm Belle.
Oh my God, of course.
Which I know, of course. I'm like, I always have this thing. I'm like, when people are like, what's wrong? Are you not happy? I'm like, of course I'm not happy. I don't have a library in my house with a rolling ladder. Like, I need that. Duh. That's like my absolute dream, to have a library in my
And I feel like you've got bell hair, so that like it all
walking around with my basket. Yeah. But what was I saying? Yeah. So yeah, the 4th line, it's all about who is my network. Yeah. The quality of your life will be directly proportionate to that. Any questions around the 4th line?
No, you're nailing
Keep going.
Yeah, go for it.
Amazing.
So we're at 5?
5. Okay. So we have the 5th line, which is the heretic. So the other words that come with that is universalizing, again, the same theme of projection, and known as the general. Now, the way that projection works here, with the 2 line, the projection is of like, they need to call out the genius of the others. Whereas for the 5th line, there's this projection on the 5th line of, you're going to save me. Yeah, it's like, you can save me. I don't know anything about you, but I can already feel you're going to save me. So I'm going to project that on you. And then what happens with the 5th line is that they feel this inner need and desire, because there is this transpersonal kind of like universalizing message of, I want to connect with everyone. I want to love everyone. I want to champion everyone. I want to save everyone. I need to make sure everyone's okay.
Yeah.
Right. And like, we're both nodding because we both have the 5th line within us. We're like, oh yeah, I feel that. Yeah. It's like, we're the person that kind of rushes in and like, everything's on fire, get out. Like, and comes in on the horse and says, that's wrong and that's right. And yeah, there's this big theme of, I want to save.
Is there, so I think I've heard this, that with the 5 lines, it's like people project like, you will save me. But then it's like, when we don't meet those projected standards, we're then cut down. It's like tall poppy syndrome. Like,
absolutely. And the reason why is because, again, we live in like a binary, the polarity in this universe, or maybe not universe, on this planet, we definitely have that dualistic living. And so the reason why the 5th line carries that is because it's almost like, as high as you jump, as low as you'll fall, because the magnetism of a 5th line is so massive of what they can achieve when they're saved. The consequence of not meeting that is huge. Yeah. So it's like, you have to have that power, you've also got to have that consequence. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And so with 5th lines, it is absolutely vital that you do not answer every call unless you truly feel that you are meant to.
So when you say a call, an opportunity, like something like that.
Yeah. When I say call, I don't mean like literally something like ring, ring, calling. It's like something's come into your life, a circumstance, a job opportunity. And when I say a call, I mean like back to what we were speaking about before, like every little thing that comes our way that makes us go, what would I do about that? Is it making my body feel a certain way? You woke up that day, you had an uncomfortable conversation with someone. That's a call. What do I do about that? How do I feel about this? Things like that. Like for the fifth line, it's nonstop.
Fun, yay.
Because they're constantly in this field of projection. They're constantly magnetizing people towards them, because and you know why? It's because fifth lines also in the unhealthy ego ways start becoming attached and addicted to the flattery that they feel of people always being like, oh my God, you always figure everything out for us. Like, you're just so amazing. Like, how do you always fix it? I need you.
It's like that martyr sort of, like, I can save you, and then just like feeding off that. Yeah,
exactly. So it's like, for those of us who have the fifth line, recognizing that our worth does not reside in saving other people. It is our gift, but it is not our worth.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Really good point.
Yeah, because it's so easy. Like, again, I'm a fifth line, and I see how that totally plays into that unconscious need of, I need everyone to, be happy and okay around me. How do I fix it? How do I save everyone? Actually, when we save everyone, we actually mess with the tapestry of life.
Totally. And you're like depriving that person of their lessons and their journey. And like, sometimes, as we know the answers, or we might know the answers, but it's not our responsibility to tell people how to do it,
Spot on.
Unless we're asked or invited,
Exactly. And that's the call. Yes. And then it's about going, does this feel right within me right now? Is my authority going, yeah, answer this call? Or is it actually being like, no, you need to step away. This person needs to figure it out on their own. Yeah.
So cool.
So the quote for this one is, whatever you're going to do in this life, make sure it has a practical application. If that's the case, you will be a success, whatever it is. But if it's not, then you have the reputation problem. It follows you wherever you go.
Wowee. Okay. Because the fives are teachers, aren't they?
Yeah, it's like a natural quote unquote. Because then we also say, well, then projectors are also the guides of life. Yeah. Like, when really and then a generator hears that and goes, oh my God, I can't be a guide. Or a manifestor, it's like, no, you can. You just would go about it a totally different way that a projector would.
As a teacher.
Yeah, it's just like the fifth line. It's just a natural thing of, I can fix these things for people. I just know how to do it. It's just a natural thing. Again, Hermione Granger, 5-1. I can fix it because I've done the study. I'm always going to save the day. Or Harry Potter, I'm going to fix it because I'm going through this trial and error process and I make a mistake, but that's what makes me likable by everyone, because I'm not a know-it-all like Hermione.
The balance.
That's the balance.
Yeah.
Now, last but not least, we come to line 6. Now, line 6 is like the roof of the house, where imagine like a person sitting on the roof and looking over to the next house, or looking out at the suburb and going, what's beyond this house? What's the next thing? That's our line 6. It's called the role model. And other words that are associated with it is the administrator, the optimist, and the peacemaker. So the 6th line, for the first 30 years of your life, if you have a 6th line, it will show up as a 3. So a third line. So if you're a 6-2, between the ages of 0 to 30, you're actually a 3-2, though that technically does not exist, because you're always meant to be a 6. It just means that people that have the 6th line, it's almost like their life is split into 3 parts. The first 30 years is a trial and error process. Then the middle ground between like 30 to 50, roughly, please don't get attached to dates, guys. But this is what, we learn, is that between that age, there's this desire to retreat from the world, to reflect on everything you learned in your trial and error process. And then from 50 onwards, it's kind of how you show up as the role model for the people around you, and then go, here's what I learned. And they're like the peacemakers. They're the ones that go, I'm the role model. I can teach you, I can guide you. There's more theme of guidance around that with the 6th line. They stand away from everyone's. They have like a really bird's eye perspective, similar to the projector, but in a very different way. but yeah, it's like there is this, and this is also probably with the sixth line, it's probably the closest linked to like your Saturn return and your Chiron return. So there's that theme of 0 to 30, Saturn return, retreat. Then when the Chiron return comes, you come back into the world.
Yeah, with your lessons and your learning.
With your lessons, exactly.
Yeah.
People with the sixth line also have this innate desire for, like, there's this theme around wanting to find your soulmate. That's not to say that you can't feel that if you're a different profile, but what that actually represents is when we go back to, you know, the way that an atom is created, or back to that cycle example I was saying before about like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is completion. 6 is looking for what's next. How do I now go from like 1 to 2?
So they're like the visionary sort of things, like holding the grand vision of everything.
The expansion, yes. Like how do we now expand? How do we make this? How do we take this to the next level? And I'm a role model of what I've lived. Now here's what I've lived. Now go and do more. Go and be more. Go and create more. Expand. Again, it's the universe just going, I am still the Big Bang. I still need to expand.
So this is a rogue question, but you know how like reflectors are like the, 1 to 2% of the population. Are there any like the profiles or the lines that are really rare?
It's a good question. There is 4 1s would be the rarest.
Yeah.
And also I think it's the 1 4 is also quite rare.
Yeah. And then those ones with that like trajectory line that's not like the interpersonal.
So that's the 4 1 is definitely. So the 1 4 is the personal. The 4 1 sits right. It's called the juxtaposition. They sit right in the middle and they kind of connect everyone together. Energetically, it's not a conscious thing. It's just literally, again, it's like we're discussing energy, which is, it's almost like we need to put on special glasses where we stop seeing ourselves as separate. The illusion of there's a table, here's my body, there's a book, when really it's all just like numbers, zeros and ones, zeros and ones. Like that's all it is. Yeah. Like all of it's connected. And so the quote with for the 6th line is, every 6th line being carries the magic of the future. It carries the magic of what is possible for a human being, what's possible for any human being if they are fortunate enough in this life to come in contact with this knowledge and they get to experiment with it and see for themselves. So for a 6th line to truly show up as that role model towards that end half of their life, they really need to let themselves embrace that trial and error process in their 0 to 30. Could you imagine if they've completely shamed and judged themselves for that? So then they kind of like, they hide their life experience as they go on and later in life. Like that's them actually keeping back their genius, how they know and show.
That's so cool. So that's all of them. We've got
the 6th line.
That's the 6 of them. Oh my God, that was so good. So like, I feel like for people who are listening, just like digest on what we've said, just like let it simmer, and then what I love doing is just like researching my profile, so 3-5 or whatever your profile is, and then just like there's so much info on the web, and then diving in deeper that way, because you can see how your lines then marry up together. So it's like, how does the 3 and the 5 work together as one? And then bring in your energy type, so like projector, generator, yada yada yada, and see how it all sort of works together.
That's it.
Yeah. Amazing.
And if anyone doesn't know, like the fastest way for you to look up your profile, besides getting like the My Human Design app or going onto mybodygraph.com, if you just look at your graph and you look at the numbers run along the side, there's like red numbers and black numbers. The top 2 numbers, the first 2 at the top, which would be your sun gates, the symbol is like a circle with a dot in the center. It'll be a number from 1 to 64, and then a decimal point, and then another number. And so you know how we read left to right?
Yeah.
Your profile, it's the decimal point from right to left. So let's say you're on the left-hand side, you're 14.1, and then on the other side, you're 32.5. You would be a 5-1.
Oh, that's cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's how you can know immediately. So look at the decimal point and then read it from right to left.
And that's so people just go on to Mindbody or My Human Design and then do their body graphs through that way.
Yeah.
Amazing. That was so good. My mind's like blown. And like I think the Harry Potter references just totally just landed for me, They're so good. And I love Harry Potter, you know. So I want to finish today, Kat, with a question. And we didn't get to do this in your first episode, so I'll be interested to hear what you say. But what is the one thing that changed your life? just a small question, you know.
Just a small question. Oh wow. Look, there's so many things that have changed my life. Let's be honest. I think because we've been talking about human design, I want to put importance on the fact that I believe what's changed my life is when I shifted my perspective from seeing these massive, grand choices, like, do I move overseas? Do I get that job? Or do I start that business, as the be all and end all of what's changed the trajectory of my life? And instead, given the acknowledgement to every little choice I make every day, and how those choices then stack upon one another to then create that big thing that I do. But that big thing is a result of the little choices I've made.
Yeah, that's
so yeah, it's shifting. What changed my life was shifting my perspective around what I think changes my life.
And what do the little things look like for you?
Oh, the little things, it's going to sound so bizarre, but the little things are things like, I get an email and someone wants a response immediately. I'm emotional authority. I'm not going to write back straight away. I am going to honor that I need time. So it's making that choice. Because then in the meantime, like, this is how instantaneously our lives can change through the smallest thing. I could respond to that email immediately, lock myself into a job that ultimately down the track I hate, or by just going, you know what, I'm going to wait a day. In that day, I can then have a friend that goes, Kat, I've got $1 million job in Bali for you. Do you want it? My gut goes, boom, not Bali, Italy. That's where I want to go, right? It's in Italy for you. All of a sudden my gut goes, oh my God, yes. But because now, do you see now how then, again, I'm speaking specifically about myself, but as a 5-1, if I went against my authority because I answered the call too quickly, then my 5th line, I have the projection of that person asking me to do the job. They've gone, Kat will do it. I then, let's say I go, oh no, I'm so sorry, I've got another job now, but I've already said yes to you. They would go, there goes her reputation, we're never booking Kat again. But had I waited and then gone, hey, look, I'm so sorry, I'm actually no longer available on that time, they would go, no worries, Kat, thanks so much. Do you see how just that one little freaking choice of waiting to respond to an email completely changes so many things?
Yes, 100%. And like, I'm emotional as well, and I do not wait to respond.
Not wait. Yeah. Or like things like, oh, what's the best thing? Like, what would excite me today? Let's say I woke up in a really bad mood. Let's say I'm having a fight with, I don't know, my family member, my sister, okay? And I wake up in a bad mood and I want to do all these like negatively ego traits and stuff. And instead I go, okay, Kat, what lights you up? What's the first thing that would light you up today? Let's get you in alignment. So I go for a walk, and when I go on that walk and then I see this sunrise that reminds me of my sister. And then because it's so beautiful, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to send her a photo. I send the photo. Then my sister messaged me back going, oh my God, Kat, so stupid that we fought. Do you see how little things like that
it's like that compounds to then make like a more aligned, better picture.
So that's probably not the best example, but yeah, like that
was good.
Little choices of getting yourself into alignment will change your freaking life. It's the little stuff, not the big stuff. The big stuff is a combination of all the little stuff anyway.
Yeah, and the big stuff is what we stress about the most.
Always.
And then the little stuff we just like, let it on slide.
That's it.
Amazing answer as always, Cat Santos. And one, thank you so much for coming on today and just sharing your wisdom. And like, I honestly just get so lit up by like your enthusiasm and like just how much you're so lit up by this stuff. So you're definitely in alignment with your human design.
I really am. My channel of enthusiasm.
And how can people connect with you or book a session if they would like to?
Oh, look, guys, let's be honest. I'm the worst when it comes to Instagram. So if you do want to book a session with me, go onto my Instagram. I have a highlight called links. If you click on the links, because as you know, it's multifaceted what I do. I'm also a dancer, illustrations, and human design. There is a link of book a human design reading with me. And then you can book it through there. I have Calendly, and you can then, lock yourself in for a time.
And also check out illustrations by Cat. They're incredible. And I'm not sure where you're going to be dancing next.
Oh, come watch
tuned.
American Idiot at Hodder. We'll have that in October. It's on for 2 weeks. So it's a punk rock opera musical.
Oh my God, that's just like full niche, like a combination.
Yeah, it's the Green Day American Idiot album, and they created a
so
musical
good.
about it. So if you're into Green Day, come watch.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Kat, so much. And everyone who's listening, always so grateful for you. And we'll see you on another episode.
Thank you, guys. Bye.